Alright, you guys, welcome back to the video channel here. Today we're just doing the final wrap up on Kyler's 4Runner. This here is a 1986 4Runner with independent front suspension and a manual transmission. I'd like to thank Kyler for being my first customer here at the Adventure Tech garage. We're just starting up, just grassroots really, just getting going, so we can only go up from here, but his schedule permitted me to actually keep a hold of this truck for almost 4 months during late summer here, and so on my time I was able to get a bunch of stuff done for it. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of do a wrap up here of what all was done on it and send it on its way so Kyler can enjoy it. So starting off with here, I do wish it was mine. This project kind of started with him potentially wanting to sell this thing to me. I had inquired about it 4 or 5 years ago, probably, when visiting him one time, and he's kind of had it hanging out at his house for quite a while, but I almost was going to buy the thing, and I have a hard time doing all this work and seeing it go, but I'm glad it's going to go into good hands to somebody that's going to actually use it. Take it out, take that hard top off, and take it out and take his family on some off-road and Toyota adventures. So I'm super stoked for him. But what I know about this truck is Kyler's had this thing for I think 18 years, and I think about 18 years, and I think it's the second Toyota he's had. So he had it, I believe, on Catalina Island. That's where he's from, just off of the coast of Los Angeles there. And so this truck probably spent some time on Catalina Island, but somewhere along the way he did have the engine rebuilt by a Napa shop, and I think that was a long time ago, 15 plus years ago. So he hasn't put a ton of miles on it since then, but so you know, the bottom of the engine we suspect is in good shape. And what we did was we just tackled the majority of the leaking, the vibrations, and put a new suspension on it because the old suspension was super sad and super saggy, and he's got new tires on it. So pretty much just kind of trying to baseline this kind of an old truck that it's not a pristine truck by any means, but it's going to be a good rugged unit for him to take and build upon. So, you know, putting these 4 months into it, we got a lot of work done on this thing. So as far as what all was done here, the thing was leaking like a sieve. I mean, it was leaking out of almost every single seal and gasket that it had. I drove it about 80 miles back from the garage here today and left it overnight, dry as a bone. Super nice. So we tackled and got rid of all of the leaks, which consisted of probably somewhere around 10 seals, 10 different seals, and probably 20 plus gaskets throughout the entire drivetrain. So now let's see where we began on this project. Was it did have a big hop, and one of the front right hub was loose, so the nut that's in there, it was backed off quite a bit because it wasn't installed properly, and so it wasn't running real smooth to begin with. So, and we suspected that the rear drive shaft might be a culprit on the vibrations and bouncing too. So the very first thing we did was I took the drive shaft out, took it to Axis Driveline there in North Salt Lake. They balanced it out. They said they straightened it, so they said it was bent. So it was rebalanced and greased up. We put that back in. And the next thing we dove into was the front hubs. Practically every part that we put on here is OEM Toyota from the dealership, and just with a few exceptions. But we started with the outer hubs, put all new bearings in the outer hubs and the inner hubs for the front end, and then fortunately his CV axles were in good shape. The boots were blown, but they still had a lot of grease in them, so pulled those apart, inspected those, got new OEM boots put on, all 4 boots up there. So once the front end was kind of tightened up and everything, we were looking really good in that, really good up there. Next thing we did is took the transmission out and tackled the clutch. The clutch was a 15-plus-year-old Chinesium clutch that had been installed probably when that transmission or that was out. But this transmission had been gone through at some point. The gaskets and the sealant in between the seams, someone's been in there, and whoever installed the front end of the transmission, the nose plate you could call it, didn't put a gasket on it. So the transmission and the flywheel and everything inside the bell housing was just, I've never seen such a disaster. It was horrendous, so much leaking. So pulled the flywheel out, got the flywheel turned down here at Jensen's in Ogden machine shop, and they put the 20,000 step on it. It was really nice. We got an AISIN OEM clutch for it from Yoda Tech, I believe, yodatech.com, and put in an all new clutch and all that, and it works really nice. So while we were in there, we changed out the rear main seal with a new OEM rear main seal, and then on the back of the head there's this plate, the EGR plate or something like that, that was leaking like so bad. So while I had the transmission out, we changed that out, and that cleaned that up real nicely. While we had the transmission out, we changed out every seal, every input seal and every output seal that was on it, as well as a number of the gaskets. The shift towers needed new gaskets, so we got that thing. We got everything buttoned up and tidied up. It really needed that. Then once that thing was back in and running, we tackled the suspension. We put a old Man Emu 2.5-inch to 3-inch light duty suspension. Unfortunately, Old Man Emu and ARB are on such back order right now that the front torsion bars are unavailable. So currently, what we did is we just cranked up the torsion bars to the max, pretty much. There's really not much more adjustment you can make on those, and that was to just try to kind of level out the ride. Some folks do it that way. Some folks do it that way, maybe kind of crank them up a little bit, and then they put the spacers on the control arms. So that was going to be an option for us, but his upper ball joints and lower ball joints had been replaced not too long ago. They're in really good shape, so there was really no reason for us to tackle into those. So we ordered the kit through Cruiser Outfitters up there in Sandy, Utah, and we're just waiting on those torsion bars to come in. So quite surprisingly, I've never done it this way, but those front torsion bars, so long as he doesn't put a huge heavy winch on the front, they're actually behaving pretty well. You got good down travel. Up travel, ride's pretty smooth. I mean, it's a little bit rough, but nothing unbearable. So we've got mostly all of the suspension installed, which was a full kit. You can get it from Cruiser Outfitters. Awesome. Those guys are freaking dialed. They have all the kits that you need for all your Toyotas, whether they're new modern 4Runners, Tacomas, Tundras, Land Cruisers. They specialize in Land Cruisers, but fortunately for all of us Toyota otherwise, they carry a lot of similar parts too. But they take all the guesswork out. They include the bolts. We put the greasable shackles in the back. They included the front bolt pins because those are nearly impossible. You just have to cut those out. The front leaf spring hinge pins. Anyway, so we tackled the suspension, got that thing all dialed in, all the shocks and everything. It was in really good shape. And then Kyler found a sweet deal on these tires, man. These are 33 1250 15s, and on my 86 pickup I run 33 1050 15s, which I'm super stoked about. Mine are Toyo MTs. He found a sweet deal on this online somehow, and got these things delivered, I think, delivered to my house, $530, something like that, versus, it was going to be probably $800 to $900 in tires. So anyway, took those down, got them mounted and balanced, and they took a little bit of weight. I asked them to keep the weight off of the front side of the wheels, and they did that, but took a little bit of weight. They're pretty smooth, honestly, even at freeway speeds. There might be a little bit of an imbalance on one of them, but it kind of comes and goes. So, I mean, there's nothing, when you're running these big, meaty tires, to try to get them perfectly balanced, good luck. You're going to be chasing that for a long time, but 98% smooth road manners, really nice, and they fit really well. I was kind of concerned about just the width of them, but boy, I like them. I might even consider switching on my next set on the mini truck to the 1250s, 12.5-inch wide tires. Okay, so we got the tires installed, and then this thing sat there while we dove into the engine, and he just had a pretty bad coolant leak and wasn't sure exactly where it was coming from the water pump, the coolant tubes going up to the back of the timing chain cover, the timing chain cover itself, and there's just so much leaking. The entire engine is just leaking. So, you know, by the time we kind of dove into all the engine stuff, maybe we should have just pulled the whole engine and just gone through it completely, but you know, we got it done on a budget, and kept the same timing chain cover, which was nice, but replaced the water pump, the oil pump. Mostly all those parts came from LC Engineering down in Havasu, Arizona, and they have all sorts of really good stuff. They specialize in 22RE race stuff, or whether it's two-wheel drive, cars, Toyota race stuff. So really great shop down there, and they take good care of you. Really great customer service. So yeah, we just dove into the front end and pulled that whole engine apart. And there's a couple other videos on the YouTube channel here that talks about how I got the oil pan off and then how I got it back on, and so on and so forth. So just recently just wrapped it all up, and hopefully Kyler will be down here to pick this thing up here in the next 4 or 5 days, 8 days, something like that. He can take it back up to Boise, Idaho, Nampa, Idaho, and have a little bit of fun with it before the snow sets in, and then come springtime pull that top off. So anyway, it's been a hell of a project. You know, I've started in Land Cruisers back in '98, and my first FJ40, my first cruiser, and Toyota was an FJ40. So anyway, I kind of specialize in kind of some of these older rigs, but you know, with the new Tundra, and definitely like the new trucks as well. But at the cruiser shop here, as it gets up and going, hopefully we can kind of specialize in reviving some of these older rigs, especially Land Cruisers, but any of these old Toyota 4x4s, man. Got a real soft spot in my heart for the 4RUNNERs. They're just so rare and so cool, and that top comes off. Shoot, man. Yeah, I still wish this thing was mine. But anyway, let me give you the walk around, show you all of what was done. We'll talk through the different parts and pieces that were installed, and maybe go for a little ride. Yeah, so like I said, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of before and after comparisons, but here we are just taking a look at the entire underbelly of it, and yeah, man, she's dry as a bone. Now keep in mind, this is a 35-year-old truck, you know, so it's an old rig. But Kyler at some point might opt to do a solid front axle, or maybe take this thing to, you know, higher levels way beyond what I can imagine. But for now, we were just trying to get it baselined and get it back into good running, reliable condition, and keep from having a huge freaking oil stain on his driveway. So anyways, starting up here at the front, you know, we got the new old Man Emu suspension. You got the boots and the CVs that were rebooted. Okay, you can't really see what's going on the inside the hubs, but new gaskets throughout, new bearings on the hubs, and those were cleaned up. Those things were in really ratty shape. New seal on the front diff. The only seal that I didn't change out in the bottom of this truck is that rear seal on the rear diff, but it's not really leaking, so I think it's in good shape. But yeah, there you have it. Painted the oil pan while we had it off, and Kyler did put a new idler arm on here recently. Well, recently, I suppose, in the last several years, but yeah, let's go around and take a look at the back of the suspension before we pop open the hood. It'll be kind of exciting to see what he ends up doing with the rear bumper, the front bumper, and maybe change out those side steps or whatever. But here's the old Man Emu suspension with the greasable shackles. Gotta stick his spare tire back up in here. But man, there was just so much oil coming from that engine that it just spewed all the way back here to that to the rear diff. But all in all, man, it's really a pretty dang good running truck. And you know, the engine actually has a fair amount of power. All right, so under the hood, you know, fortunately he put in a new radiator not too long ago, so that thing's in good shape, but you know, the oil valve cover was completely caked in oil. So without pulling off the head, the intake's still not looking great, and the exhaust as well, but we did clean out and get the oil cleaned off. I mean, the before and after this thing is just, it was unbearable, really. It was unbelievable, but yeah, all new front end, all new timing cover seals, not new timing cover. There's your new oil pump, a new water pump, all the new gaskets, what was suspected of where the leaks were coming from. And yeah, she's just dried up nicely. We painted some of the brackets and stuff along with the oil pan and the dipstick. But you know, this truck's got a long ways to go. But overall, man, it was a good time to bring this thing back, kind of give it a bit of a revival, really, you could say. But anyways, we'll see what happens. Hopefully Kyler will keep this truck for the next 20 years beyond, and we'll actually keep on working on it, shining things up. Stoked to see what kind of bumpers he goes with and the winch and stuff. But anyway, thanks, Kyler. That's a wrap for your little Toyota 4Runner right here. Hope to do some trail running with you, maybe get up into the Sawtooth with you this coming summer. It'll be a good time. Thanks for letting me work on your truck for you, man. Enjoy it.